In this video, I'm going to show you Chapter 4, number 25. This is in the reaction stoichiometry section. The question asks to consider the following balanced equation. The first thing we need to do is balance this equation. And then we are going to determine how many moles. So we want to know how many moles of oxygen gas are required to completely react with 7.2 moles of C6H14 hexane. So we first need to balance the equation. With combustion reactions, I find it easiest to start with the carbons. So notice we have 6 carbons over here and none over here. So we're going to add a 6 to balance our carbons. And then I move to the hydrogen. So now we have 14 hydrogens and we have 2, so we could put a 7 here. And so now the oxygens is the hardest part. So from carbon dioxide, we would have 6 times 2, which is 12 oxygens, plus 7 times 1. So that would equal 19 oxygen atoms. However, over here, we have O2, which means that we can't have an odd number of oxygens on the reactant side because we are always multiplying oxygen by 2. Oxygen comes in pairs of 2. So you think to yourself, uh-oh, what do I do now? Well, all you got to do is multiply these coefficients by 2. We need the oxygen to be even. So now we are just going to make it even by multiplying by 2. So we're going to put a 2 here because originally this coefficient was 1. So we have a 2 there, which means that we now have 12 carbons on the reactant side. So now we need 12 carbons on the product side. We used to have 14 hydrogens on the reactant side, but now we have 2 times 14, which is 28 hydrogens on the reactant side, so we need 28 hydrogens on the product side. Now again, we have H2, so 14 times 2 gives us those 28 hydrogen atoms. Okay, so now let's see how many oxygen atoms we have. From the carbon dioxide molecule, we have 12 times the 2, so that's 24. And from the water, we have 14, so that would give us 38. Okay, so we need 38 oxygen atoms on our reactant side. So 38 is going to equal something, that X is going to go into as our coefficient, times 2, because we have 2 oxygens here. So divide both sides by 2, and we get 19 equals X, so our coefficient becomes 19. And here we have our balanced equation. So the question itself asks, if we have 7.2 moles of hexane, of C6H14, how many moles of oxygen would need to react? So we are converting from our 7.2 moles of C6H14 into moles of oxygen, and this is a one-step thing because this is a one-step equation because we can see very directly this is our mole ratio. For every 2 moles of hexane, we need 19 moles of oxygen. So if we have 7.2 moles of our hexane, so for every 2 moles of hexane, we have 19 moles of oxygen. Okay, so now our moles of hexane cancel out and we will be left with our moles of oxygen, which is what we want. So we just need to do this math. And we should get 68.4 moles of oxygen gas.